Okay, everyone here. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the PhD program's meet and greet of some of our faculty, as well as some of our clinic directors that are here just to share some information about our program. It's nice to see some familiar faces. Some of you were here last time, so thank you for joining us again. This is a meet and greet. We've had one other different week from today, which I believe are all recorded. So if a faculty member who presented last time isn't here today, we're sorry, but do go back and look at the recording in the same location where you signed up for today. And we also have the info sessions that we have delivered previously. We have, and student panels, if you wanted to hear from students. We don't have any additional student panels scheduled, but I believe those might have been recorded as well. We do have another info session scheduled for March 19th. Same time, same place, same method of signing up. If you would like to attend that one, at some point I'll put in the chat which faculty are going to be attending in case it is someone that you were hoping to speak to. I'll put that in the chat a little bit later. So my name is Alin Barrera, and I'm the program director for the PhD program. I'm also a faculty member, just like my colleagues here today. My area of expertise is maternal mental health and using digital tools to reach underserved communities. It's an area that I've been in since pre-smartphones, so I just dated myself right there. And it's been really fun to see the progression of how researchers, clinicians, and just the general community have really adopted and engaged with digital tools for mental health. It wasn't always like it is now. So it's been really interesting. So that's me. I'm going to popcorn it over to Dr. Haybarth, who will be taking over from me. I unfortunately have to pop out fairly quickly after we get started. But Dr. Haybarth, along with Dr. Patel and myself and others who are not here today, we really sort of oversee the PhD program training. So they can definitely answer questions, about any sort of program or training aspects, just like everybody else. But just to let you know that. Feel free to use the chat once we sort of introduce ourselves to ask questions or to raise your hand or to comment. We really want this to be an informal opportunity for all of you just to get questions answered and just to meet us and to hear about us in a bit. The last thing I will just say before I pass it on is that Dr. Kaylee Waters is unable to make it today. But she did prepare a brief description of herself and has also included her email. Should anyone have any questions for her, she's our in-residence trauma expert. She's the director of the trauma area of emphasis. I'll put that also in the chat in a bit. So with that, I'm going to popcorn it over to Dr. Haybarth. And Dr. Haybarth, maybe feel free to popcorn it over to the other faculty and directors that are here, and then we'll open it up for questions. So welcome, everyone, and enjoy, and please feel free to ask any questions that you have.
Well, yes, welcome everyone. We're so glad that you're here today. My name is Jan Haybarth, as Dr. Barrera said, and I'm one of the associate directors of the PhD program. My role at PAU I've taken on a few different roles at PAU over the last 15 or so years. I came in 2011. I started a research lab shortly after I arrived. I've been teaching research methods and statistics, a course that I've really enjoyed teaching very much. It's one of the first classes that students take as they arrive at PAU. And I'm currently teaching a mindfulness and meditation course, really enjoying that. And I also teach a Practicum form course where we stay connected to advanced students as they're out in external placements. Also at PAU in my associate director role, I coordinate an oral exam, which is a major milestone for students before they apply to internship. We have an oral clinical competency exam where students consolidate and demonstrate their readiness to move on as advanced trainees at the intern level. And I also support Dr. Barrera in any ways that she needs in order to run our program effectively. My research lab is called Personality and Social Norms. We're really interested in attitudes, prejudice, It started out with a focus on sexual orientation and gender identity, and we have broadened to include a range of different attitudes relevant to practicing competently with people with different identities and backgrounds. So I really enjoy that work. I know we have limited time, so I'm going to go ahead and popcorn to actually, I think, Dr. Patel, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Really nice to see you all. Thanks for being on camera. It's so nice to see faces and happy to tell you a little bit about my role at PAU, and then we'll answer whatever questions after the other faculty go. So I also have been here for a while. I started in 2010. So like Dr. Barrera and Dr. Haybarth, we've been here for about 15 years. My lab is called the Culture, Community, and Global Mental Health Research Lab. My bread and butter research, I would say, is around immigrant mental health. And then in recent years, maybe the past almost 10 years, I've kind of moved more into global mental health, which I think you kind of can't help but do that when you hear a lot of stories from migrants to this country. So a lot of the work I do tries to build or strengthen or support mental health infrastructure in low and middle income countries. And I thought I'd just give you a real quick snapshot of what I've done in the last week. So what my students and I have done really. So one thing that I work a lot on is student dissertations. I met with 5 students today to go over dissertation topics. Huge range of what they do. So I think that's something unique to PAU that students come and really can do what they want research wise. So we're here to guide and shepherd students in the direction they want to go. Um, I am getting ready to leave on Thursday to do work with APA. I'm on the committee for global psychology and the APA's United Nations team. So I head there on Thursday and will be meeting with folks from all over the country who represent APA in those ways. And then really exciting, it doesn't happen that often, but we just finished a big data collection push in Nicaragua around a girls empowerment soccer program. And this is, you might wonder, how does that have to do with anything you just said? I've worked for about 10 years with Soccer Without Borders, which is a really wonderful program for newcomer immigrant youth in Oakland. And one of their branches is in Nicaragua. So one of my students was able to put that together for her dissertation. And several years later, we actually realized it and were able to go there and collect research data. So that's a bulk of what I've been doing in the last week or so. Like Dr. Haybarth, I also support the PhD um, leadership team, and my primary role is around research lab matching. So I'm often talking to students to help answer questions about the research lab application process, and then I oversee the formal process of matching students into labs toward the end of their first year. So also for the sake of time, I'll stop there and maybe popcorn it over to Dr. Wilcox.
Hello, everyone. Great to see so many faces. I know it's a really exciting time and maybe a little nerve-wracking time trying to figure out next steps. So hopefully we're able to answer as many questions as you may have. Um, so I sort of have a couple different roles, but the main things I think that would be helpful for folks to know is both that I teach in the
Mhm.
PhD program, and I also am the
Even my
assistant
throat hurts a little bit.
the interim assistant director at the clinics at PAU. I have been supervising PAU students' clinical work. I've been at PAU for 4 years, but I've been supervising PAU students for 10 years because I used to supervise PAU students as well as students from other programs at external sites. And part of what drew me to PAU is how awesome the students were and how well trained I felt they were when I got to receive them at one of the external sites. And so what I do a lot of at PAU is direct supervision when you first get started, what so many people come in to do, and you're not sure quite how to do it. There's an amazing team of supervisors that I'm lucky enough to work with who meet with students every week for 3 hours, one week individually, 2 hours in group to support you in working with your first clinical caseload. I've supervised both in our community clinic and in the sexual and gender identities clinic. And we also have Clinica Latina. And I'm glad to answer questions that folks might have about that experience. But I will say that it's definitely something that I think sets PAU apart. You get a lot of really close hands-on supported work that includes recording of your sessions and a lot of just support and trying to find your voice as a clinician and then figure out next steps from there. So really excited to answer any questions you may have, particularly as it relates to the clinics, but also with anything else that may come up. So yeah, thanks for being here. All right, and I'm going to pass it to Dr. Levy.
Thank you, Dr. Wilcox. So I'm glad to see everybody here. And my role at PAU is perhaps more on the neuropsychology side of things, where in my research, I have tried to understand the brain basis of human memory and attention. And it's given me the opportunity to work with patients who have undergone strokes and seeing how the patterns of their brain damage predicts their ability to accomplish various memory tasks, working with patients who have Parkinson's disease and seeing how that has had effects on their attentional abilities, working with healthy older adults, both sort of intermediate older adults and very, very older adults, to see how the passage of life affects various memory processes in various different ways. I'm relatively new at PAU. This is my third year on the faculty after working in other institutions. And one of the things that I'm excited about is the chance that the students in my lab and I have to work collaboratively with the VA hospital in Palo Alto, where we work with the War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center, which is a really important effort to help American veterans who suffer from Gulf War illness, thousands and thousands of service women and men who have various health challenges. And often those health challenges include things like post-traumatic stress disorder. And my students and I are working hard with enormous data sets that are generated in the context of the work of this clinic, including brain imaging data, to try to understand what factors might lead people who have undergone both traumatic experiences, physically damaging experiences like traumatic brain injury, and exposure to chemicals in the context of stressful warfare situations, what kind of sequelae, both cognitive and affective, that has, and what ways we can develop to help people who are dealing with these kinds of challenges, including various kinds of non-conventional therapy. So that's been really wonderful to work on sort of basic studies that are hopefully opening up ways for developing new treatment prospects that we hope will have very broad-ranging consequences for helping people, not only with that particular background, but in general, to rebound from various physical health and mental health challenges. So that's the example of the kind of wonderful thing that my students and I have had the opportunity to do within the PAU context. And let me pass the microphone over to Dr. Claire.
Thank you, Dr. Levy. It's nice to see some familiar faces here. So my name is Dr. Claire. I'm the interim director for the diversity and community mental health area of emphasis, while Dr. Joyce Chu is on sabbatical for this academic year, which for those of y'all who may not know what sabbatical means, not to worry, Dr. Joyce Chu will be returning next year. It's just a fancy word for a paid, well-deserved academic break. So within the diversity and community mental health area of emphasis, I think what really sets us apart here as PAU is training in serious mental illness, training in working in and community mental health related agencies, but also, training in underrepresented tasks that you may not get exposure to in another clinical psych program. Things like needs assessment, program evaluation, is especially emphasized within the DCMH curriculum. But beyond that, I'm also faculty within the program as well. So I direct the substance use and intergenerational trauma social processes, SITS for short, research team. We do a lot of critical qualitative research on both substance use, mainly more so on the prevention side of things, and intergenerational trauma as well. So right now I'm really excited. We're doing a national qualitative research study on how licensed mental health providers define intergenerational trauma, given that there's been a lot of foundational work with descendants of Holocaust survivors, indigenous communities, descendants of Japanese internment camp survivors as well. But clinically, how the term is applied remains a little bit more nebulous because, as you all may know, there's PTSD practice guidelines, CPTSD, complex PTSD practice guidelines, less so clinical guidance for intergenerational trauma. So hoping that that project will help contribute to such as well. I also teach within our doctoral program. So I teach the cross-cultural psychology course. So I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have about the infusion of social justice and cultural responsiveness in our curriculum as well as concerning the DCMH area of emphasis on Dr. Chu's behalf as well. I'll turn it over, I think, back to Dr. Haybarth.
So much, dear colleagues. It's great to hear about your work. We don't always get to pause and hear about what each other are up to. So I'm grateful for this opportunity for that kind of conversation. And also, before I open the chat room, and also feel free to raise your hand if you have questions. Before we move there, some of my colleagues are reminded me of a couple of things that additional things I'd like to share, such as some work that's been happening either in my lab or with colleagues. One thing that I'm really excited about right now is a collaboration with a group of colleagues with the Institute for Academic Feminist Psychologists. We're doing some follow-up studies. There have been 4 national institutes that have met, and I joined the committee coordinating the last institute, the 4th institute, and it's run through APA's Division 35. We're really excited to do some post-attendance surveys, and we have some natural control groups, such as people who wanted to attend the institute but couldn't for some reason. So that's one thing in the works. Another thing in the works is a paper on queer generativity, and that is looking at the sense of generativity moving forward. What do we leave behind as queer people? And there, we have a multi-gender, multi-sexual orientation, multi-racial group of folks who've written essays, and currently another colleague and I, Dr. Liz McConnell, are working on a content analysis of those essays. So there's a little bit more about some of the work that's happening here at PAU. So we are ready for your questions. Please feel free to ask about the program, the university. If we don't know the answers, we'll take notes and see if we can get back to you. If you'd like to put questions in the chat, you're welcome to. If you'd like to raise your hand, you're welcome to do that. And is it Larry? Please pronounce your name if I didn't get it right. If you
it's Allery. It's like Valerie without
Allery. Thank you. What is your question, Allery?
Yeah, so like my brain, I feel like is just overstimulated with the possibilities of all the research I'm hearing about. One of the things that holds me back personally from pursuing this degree is how sure should I be about the research area that I want to pursue? Because I'm hearing from all the faculty and I'm like, I want a piece of that and that and that and that. And I worry. And someone once told me that, a doctoral program isn't a place to find yourself, which made me think like, oh, maybe I'm too scattered. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe I could take that one as the research lab person. I think that is a really unique part of our program that we are happy to take people who are finding themselves. So we have a range of first-year students in terms of how clear they are on what they'd like to pursue for research and clinical work and careers. Some come in very clear. They know their area, they stick with it, they find the opportunities within the program to meet those goals. Others come in with a number of interests, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and what's nice is you get to spend that first year in courses, getting to know faculty, exploring the different labs a bit more, kind of ear to the ground, what's actually happening, and then you apply to your research labs at the end of your first year. And then even within that, the vast majority of our research labs and faculty are very happy to support students' evolving interests. So you might come in, I know for myself, I started being interested in working with kids, and I ended not so much. I wanted to be working clinically anyways with adults. So I think we all really value and appreciate the fact that you all are evolving in your interests. Desmond?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Awesome. Thank you all so very much for having this Zoom session. I think it is so helpful. I actually have two questions. So the first question I do have is, I understand that within like the first couple of years, this program is like really course heavy. The question I have in regards to that is, how does this program integrate clinical training with research, especially once the research training is, I guess, when it starts to commence for students at the appropriate time? And then the second question I did have is, do students finish their dissertation before internship? And if so, like, what does the whole process look like involving like the clinical internship year and applying for internship, et cetera?
Such great questions, Desmond. Thank you for sharing those. I'm sure you're not the only one with these questions. I can share, in my experience, the answer to your questions or the answers to your questions depend on the student's career goals and what else may be going on in life for the student along the way. I have seen many different kinds of pathways through PAU's program. And that makes sense to me because different career goals call for different kinds of focus and might involve different kinds of and a different kind of order of prioritizing emphasis and experience, and different kinds of life experiences can contribute to a need to pace in different ways. So while our program is set up such that it can be completed in 5 years, some students look at the options and say 5 years is too quick for me to get everything I want to get done. I want to become proficient at research and clinical training in advanced ways, and I want to be ready for a type of internship and work beyond internship that's going to require me to develop advanced skills in both of these areas. Other students might be interested in a teaching career, professor, academic career, and they might want to be building teaching experiences along the way. First, perhaps TAing, and then before graduating, getting done with having some experience of teaching independently, either in our undergrad or master's programs or in local community colleges. And then so many pathways, many possibilities. And I think it's important to work with your mentor to figure out what kinds of pathways make sense for you. The second question, same thing. Getting the dissertation done before internship can be very helpful. It helps you to be fully available for your internship year. But for some students, life intervenes or they're not quite done and they need some time during the internship year to finish. And in a small number of cases, I've worked with some students who have finished their dissertation after completing internship. So it all depends on what's going on in life and what the career goals are. And I hope that's helpful to more than just Desmond on the call. Gosh, I see we have some questions in the chat. If we start with Skylar, what qualities do PhD students who excel in your program bring in? And what is something unique that you see PAU PhD grad students leaving the program with? I love Dr. Claire's so open-mindedness, growth mindset, a sense of the desire or capacity that we all have to continue growing, intellectual and cultural humility, strong commitment to learning. And then number two, I also appreciate these responses. Great mix of generalist and evidence-based care, while balancing specialized competencies that are available for students to pursue. Does anyone have anything to add to those responses in terms, any faculty on the call? What qualities do PhD students who excel in our program come in with? And what unique opportunities do we offer? Or unique skill sets do folks leave the program with? Anything to add?
I think one of the things I would add specifically to number two that students leave with is just exposure to such a diversity of experience. I think, one of the advantages of being in a program that's a little bit bigger that has multiple tracks, like, for example, I teach a class on supervision, consultation, and program evaluation. And one of the assignments I gave the students that they did last week is they all had to think about an area in which they might want to do consultation work in, research different things that they could do, and come back and present. Well, when you have a room full of folks who are some who are interested in forensics and some who are interested in neuropsych and some who are interested in community mental health, like the exposure you get to different things in the fields. I mean, I love it. I didn't do any training in forensics and I like nerd out just like listening to the diversity of the passion of students, and I think similarly, that's true, like, in terms of what kind of settings people train at. And then even like where I'm based out of, like in the clinics, we work to match students with supervisors who have relatively aligned interests. And still we have within the groups, you might have someone who's really interested, you might work with somebody who's interested in doing serious mental illness, and then you have folks who are interested in pediatrics. So I think just the diversity of experiences and passions, as well as like lived experiences that folks bring in, just makes it just a really unique experience. And I think people get excited by each other and then are inspired to try different things. And sort of to tie it to the question that was said earlier of like, well, what if I'm interested in a lot of different things? I think because there's a lot of different things, you can. So there are the students who come in who have this straight linear path and they follow that clear focus. And there are other people who are like, well, this is my path, but I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And you can do that by mixing the research and the clinical and different coursework, and I think also just being in the Bay Area, the variety of sort of sites and places that you can train at too.
Right, so our foundational training expectations and competency expectations are PhD level across the board, research, clinical work. And it's possible to do more than what's required in some areas, or build unique skill sets that aren't part of the basic degree requirements. And I love the response again. Thank you, Dr. Claire, that in response to areas of emphasis. And I'll just add to that it's not required to declare an area of emphasis during the application process to PAU, or in terms of acceptance to PAU, that students have the first year to reflect on area of emphasis possibilities, and it is important to look at what are the requirements for areas of emphasis, such as grades in certain courses that might be important as prerequisites for areas of emphasis. And I see we have a question for Dr. Levy in the chat. What really attracted Monica to PAU is its unique partnership with the VA Palo Alto, just like yourself. If I want to open those doors, to me within the VA as a veteran myself who wants to research PTSD, which emphasis would best support a student with high desire to work with and see PTSD and veterans?
Yeah, so Monica, thanks for that question. There are actually, a number of different routes, and there's so many ways in which we're trying to help veterans. So a neuropsych emphasis could be relevant for a lot of the work that we're doing. A trauma focus would also be extremely relevant for aiding veterans who are dealing with those kinds of issues. So it's possible to match different kinds of interest and passions with different approaches to aiding, the veteran population. And I think that veterans really appreciate when other veterans are sort of kicking in and supporting them. And of course, the way that people feel seen and best understood by people who have parallel experiences to their own, that's so super valuable. So you've got tremendous potential to being able to make a really special contribution to veteran mental health and veteran well-being in general.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, thanks for addressing that question as I was talking with Dr. Cordova and then also Dr. Waters. And so it just seems like, wow, like with trauma and PTSD and neuropsychology, I mean, you really can go in either direction depending on the specifics of your research. So thank you for that insight. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. And perhaps we'll go to another question in the room from Jill.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful just to hear about all the avenues to explore different interest areas and areas of specialty. And I really love that opportunity. My question is actually more about when you narrow that down and you have picked and identified and linked up with a lab that you're going to end up working with. And I know it probably differs, but I wanted to ask how students typically develop their research trajectory once they join the lab. So, for example, how much of their dissertation work grows directly out of the PI's program versus what they might sort of start from their own question that relates to the research program?
Wonderful question, Jill. That I would say depends on the lab. Some labs have really big projects rolling, and they need everyone participating in those projects in order to keep the lab's work moving forward. Other labs have a series of smaller projects, and in one or both scenarios, it might be possible for a student to develop an independent project that of their own interest. In one example from my lab is that almost all of my students conduct an independent research project for their dissertations, often survey research, occasionally accessing existing data from existing data sets. And often when students are engaged in those projects, I work together with them to think about an additional variable or two that they might add to their project so that students coming after them would have the opportunity to engage in a poster, a hypothesis that they might ask of the data in order to get some conference presentation experience or possibly even a publication. That the dissertation PI, the student, would then certainly be part of the authorship in that scenario.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. It sounds
You're
like
welcome.
a great way of passing the legacy on too.
Yes. And it's great to see students collaborating in that way. Another thing that my students do sometimes is if they graduate, they've gotten their dissertation done, and they feel done with research, at least for the moment. Sometimes younger students will hop on and help to translate the dissertation length document into a publication or a manuscript to submit for peer review. In a case like that, the dissertator is the first author, and those of us who are supporting the process are supporting authors on the project.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I see Alfred has a question, and I also see that Alexander had a question a little bit ago. So maybe I'll start there. What is an area of learning that I can focus on during my first year that has not been discussed yet? Um, hmm, Goodness. Any ideas? I mean, one thing that comes across to me is soft skills like time management, um, communication strategies, and communication skills in terms of effective email writing or effective sorting and processing of many emails and figuring out a strategy for how to get through a great deal of information that's coming into an inbox so that you don't miss important things. Um, does anybody else have something to add about things that students commonly learn in the first year?
One of the things that I'll give a quick shout out to Dr. Burra, who had to leave, is she teaches our amazing professional standards course for year one students. So I really wished I had an equivalent course within my graduate training because the purpose of that course is kind of to socialize students into not just life at PAU, but through to the discipline writ large. So, exploring involvement opportunities at APA, at state, and provincial psychological associations is another kind of like exploratory and experiential learning opportunity that I know Dr. Brera does an amazing job of covering in that professional standards course.
Thank you. Excellent response. By the way, Hannah, I've been busy typing a response to you, and I'll hit send as soon as I can finish that. Thank you for your question. And how about if we hop over to Alfred?
Thank you so much for holding the session. Sorry to double dip here. I did ask a question in the chat. This is maybe sort of a two-parter, but interested in some of the labs and curious about what it looks like maybe if some of your research interest overlaps with multiple labs. I know for myself, I've done some work in addiction and substance use, but also am super interested in utilizing brain imaging. I don't know if Dr. Levy that you have access to an fMRI machine, which would be fantastic, but what would that look like in terms of being able to collaborate or maybe work between multiple labs if your interest does sort of really flow into both areas?
Yeah, so I have to check whether the MRI in my garage is still working, but if it is, you can come over and scan people. No, but really, one of the good things is that your dissertation work will always be done with the support of a committee where you've got perhaps your main supervisor from the lab to which you formally belong, but other people from the faculty, internal, and also the possibility of getting an external advisor, maybe from one of the hospitals that many of our projects are affiliated with. So you'll be getting the support of people with multiple forms of expertise, especially if you're going to be wanting to work on something which requires different skill sets and different competencies. So that is something that definitely happens within the context of the program.
Thanks so much for that response, Dr.
Thank you.
Levy. Is it Kanika? Did I say your name correctly? You have a question about typical schedules for first year students. That's an excellent question too. As soon as students arrive in the program, we provide a grid that shows what classes they're going to be taking each year. That might also be posted for admissions. On the admissions side, I can check and get back to folks about what we can share about the current order of courses. And I can also tell you that the first 2 years, as someone mentioned earlier, are pretty course intensive. The first year, especially. And what we try to do is balance some of the courses in distribution across the year with some of the I would say, more soft skill focused or less intensive courses. So for example, research methods in Stats 1 tends to be a challenging course for many students, and we try not to pack that semester with a whole bunch of other intensive classes. So there's one research methods or stats class every quarter in the first year. There are psychological science courses per quarter in the first year, and then what are some of the other courses in the first year? I'm trying to remember. I don't think we start assessment in the first year, although that's something we're looking to shift in the future. And I would be happy to answer more questions if I didn't fully answer what you were hoping for there. Okay, more questions. I'm scrolling down. Oh, Caitlin, when entering labs during second year and after, does tuition become partially subsidized? Also, are there opportunities for joint TA work to help with program costs? This is, let's see, tuition is not subsidized in the second year and beyond. There are some opportunities to work as TAs, but it doesn't cover tuition. It's a paid position at an hourly rate, as opposed to being a tuition reimbursement approach. And if I could change one thing actually about PAU, it would be tuition reimbursement and enough. Actually, I wish that it was fully funded, that students could come in on fellowships. So that I would really encourage you to think carefully and make sure you are aware of the costs as you're getting ready to make decisions. I can say that students who have graduated come back and say it was fully worth it, and I'm working towards repayment. I know that there have been some new laws that have been passed that affect the amount of loans that folks can take out. So I hope that those laws will change soon, and I just want to provide a candid, honest response that this is something I wish we could change in terms of the cost of the program. Isabella, what's your question?
Hi, yes, I'm so sorry. I just realized the time, so I'll try to make it quick. But
Oh my goodness, yes, me too.
I just wanted to ask whether any of the faculty here have any students with the forensic emphasis, because when I initially applied, I'm very interested in the forensic emphasis. I looked at Dr. Weaver and Dr. Faniff's work, but after listening to all the info sessions, I've really liked Dr. Chen as well as Dr. Levy. I enjoy some of your work as well. So I was just curious as to how you kind of match students, because I think I'm more so focused on Dr. Weaver and Dr. Faniff for the population I want to work with, not so much the current research that they're doing.
Oh my goodness. First of all, I'll say Dr. Faniff, I mean, I love all of my colleagues. Dr. Faniff, I share an office with and is one of my favorite humans in the world, including one of my favorite colleagues. She and I was trained as more of a personality and clinical psychologist. She was trained as a forensic psychologist, and we share students. Sometimes I have learned a great deal, just like Dr. Wilcox was saying earlier. I've learned a lot about forensic psychology because of my involvement in this program. And I've learned a lot about other areas of psychology because of my involvement in this program. And I've taken a good number of forensic psychology students because they're interested in prejudice reduction in forensic settings. I know that time is coming to a close. I see more questions, and I wish we could spend a great deal more time with everybody. I'd be happy to stay on and answer a few more questions for those who want to stay. For anyone who would like to add a question in the chat that hasn't been posed yet, and provide your email address, I'll do my best to follow up with you. And let's see, what Perhaps because the chat has become large, someone could raise their hand if your question has not been answered yet. Justin. And then Diana. Okay. And if folks need to leave, I understand.
Thank you so much. I was just wondering what kind of research experience is the most helpful to represent a student's potential as far as what could be done in school, or if I were to like get a job and be working between semesters.
So are you talking about what kind of research will help you in your future career, or what kind of research would help a person succeed in graduate school?
In graduate school.
Okay. So one thing that I've found is that if students have had an opportunity to contribute to a conference presentation or a publication, that can make a big difference in their readiness for graduate school. Not everybody has that experience coming in, and we work with folks where they start with, where they're starting from. But I've seen that it is very helpful to have had data analysis experience or poster development experience, conference presentation involving data, and sometimes also helpful if folks have been involved in the data collection and data entry, data cleaning aspects of research. And there are, as I think, as you mentioned, sometimes opportunities to work as a paid research assistant outside of PAU. So I think some students have worked at Stanford or at other places contributing to projects. And I saw another hand up, but I think it might have gone down. Diana, oh yes, it was your hand. And are you unmuted, Diana?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you.
Yes.
I put my question in the chat, so I'm sorry. So yeah, so my question is, so I see that you guys have internships in different states, and my question is, would we have to relocate to Palo Alto at any point
Say
during?
again, when does a student need to relocate to Palo Alto?
Yeah, if so.
Yes. Our PhD program is a residential program, so it does require students to be residential from year one. There is a different program at PAU that we have a master's program that that involves some of the same courses in the PhD program, and it's students in the master's program can select PhD prep as their focus, and those students would be completing the courses that we offer in the PhD program in year one, spread out part-time over 2 years and remotely mostly. So for folks who are not able to relocate to PAU or to Palo Alto, it can be helpful to look at alternatives such as getting a master's degree in a PhD prep program like the one that we offer. Our PhD prep program students often apply to join the PhD program in year two, having completed 2 years of part-time in the master's program. I hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'm seeing
Have a
lots
good
of,
night.
oh, you too, Diana, thanks. Seeing lots of thank yous, and thank you all for being here. Any other questions that I could answer or that our faculty could answer? I was pretty chatty, so I wonder if other faculty want to say something. Oh, Desmond, you're back. Okay, good.
So sorry, I just have one more quick question, particularly for Dr. Levy. I wanted to know in regards for the clinical neuropsychology emphasis, which is what I'm interested in. Um, like what specific neuro-focused practicum opportunities are available to students in the program? I know you mentioned the VA, but I wanted to know like what other opportunities aside from the VA are available to students.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't give you a very precise answer to that because the practicum sites that are specifically with, more neuropsychologically oriented, there is, those are external to the clinics of the institution, and so there's a little bit more change about that. So I'm sorry that I can't give you the specifics about that. This is something which sort of develops during the course of the neuropsychology emphasis, and the admission to the neuropsychology emphasis is something that happens over the course of the first year of studies. Again, just like we don't require that students make a commitment and we don't offer commitments in terms of lab placements, there's also an opportunity to sort of begin exploring the coursework of the first year program in general, and then being able to say, oh, I really thought I wanted to do this, but maybe I actually want to do something else. So we sort of have that flexibility built into the first year of the program, and then all of the specifics and where practicum experiences might most rewardingly happen is something that develops as time goes on thereafter. And I apologize that I don't have a specific answer for you.
Well, I might be able to speak a little bit to that really quickly. So, so your first clinical experience is at the clinics at Palo Alto University, or a small number of students are placed at Kaiser. During your second year, and you do it again in your third year, you apply through something called BAPIC, which is the Bay Area Practicum Information Collaborative. And there are sites all over the Bay Area, including many different neuropsych. So the VA is a really popular one for folks in the neuropsych track, but there are also various hospital settings, a couple like private organizations. So students do different things. There's pediatric neuropsych sites, there's more geriatric focus sites. So students typically apply to somewhere between 6 to 10 sites, and then they interview and then they go through sort of a matching process. So there's a lot of different kinds of sites. There's some that sort of the overlap with more forensic and neuropsych. So it just really depends on what your interests are. And there's options all over the Bay Area. And that process is the same whether you're neuropsych or whether you're any other area of emphasis.
All right, so I think we will wrap up our time together today, unless any faculty would like to offer some parting comments. Do you feel settled? Settled enough. Okay, what a rich discussion we've had today. Thank you all for attending, for your interest in the PhD program at PAU. Please feel free to reach out to with follow-ups, and I wish you the very best in your path towards your next steps in career, whether it's at PAU or elsewhere. I hope you land well. I hope you excellent supportive experience as you build your next steps. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
And hope